Evanston, Illinois. They want to make it right with their citizens, allegedly. They are saying they're going to be the first U.S. city to offer black people reparations for past discrimination. $25,000 per family available for home repairs or down payments funded by tax on recreational pot. What do you guys think about that?
I'll let you go first, Jay Black. I see some thoughts going over there.
I don't necessarily. I guess it's a start, but we always just getting starts, and I just don't necessarily agree with them telling people what to do with the money. I think that's my biggest gripe with it. But hey, if this is what's gonna make people happy, and at the end of the day, we accepting what we at the point where we gotta accept what they give us, because that's all we've been waiting for it. We're waiting for it. So if this is,
I kind of feel the same as Jay Black. Like, one, not to sound ungrateful, but $25K per family isn't that much. And then not only are they giving you $25K, they giving you $25K and telling you how you can and can't use it. So like, once again, I like that there is structure, because you need programs and you need things like that to get black people ahead. But at the same time, one, I'm hoping they not thinking this $25K is enough to represent the pain and torture that our families have received for generations. And then the whole scheme of things we're still going through. So
I think it go back to our conversation though about having a price. Like,
and everybody got one. Everybody. So I understand that for sure.
So the more details, it says this is only the first phase. The first phase involves giving 16 residents $25,000 each for home repairs or property costs. This plan, however, is far from the direct payment that have come to characterize reparations to address slavery and the subsequent racial discrimination of the United States. The housing program is the first initiative in a historic plan to distribute $10 million in reparations to black residents of Evanston. That's according to the resolution. The effort is to directly acknowledge and address historical harm done to Evanston residents through discriminatory housing policies, practices, and inaction by the city. A historical report on the city's policies identified housing as the strongest case for reparations in that city. They find significant evidence of housing discrimination in Evanston as a result of the city zoning ordinances in place between 1919 and 1969. So what if they all got together and did a class action lawsuit? Would they have gotten more?
And that's the thing. I definitely, because just generally speaking, like, I don't know how big Evanston is. I want to know how big their black population is, and like, once again, the future plans of what they plan to do for black people there. So I'm gonna do a little bit more research, because this is kind of intriguing me now, because I definitely know we're doing a reparations thing, but now that we're talking about it, it does make me want to delve into, what's the plan there. So
that bill HR 40, which would create a commission. See, like, they keep dancing around it. Like, how many commissions? How much research do you need to do?
I think that's where it's important. Like, if we had our demands in place, it wouldn't be this is what we want. This is what we want, and bam, it's like, y'all gonna give us this, or
but I think I agree with you, and I think the way to do that is, like I was saying, wouldn't it be nice if everyone knew where the plantation was that their family worked at, and they could like quantify how long and how many years, and what they had to do, and so you would have more of a solid case. To me, it seems like they don't want families to know.
It's kind of like in the military. Like, if you go on a mission and you get caught, you destroy everything, because like, that's how valuable the information is, and you don't want your either opponent or your enemy to figure out, you know what I'm saying, or be able to trace their way back. Like, they did the same thing to us, to our history. Like, they want to make sure that we have no way to know where we come from, and there's a reason for that, for stuff like that. Because think about if this country ever does decide to give us to give us reparations overall, how they gonna decide who gets it? You know what I'm saying? How we gonna choose? Are some people black enough while others aren't? Like, it's gonna be, and this is stuff we got to talk about. You know what I'm saying? And being able to trace your history, being able to, because you see it even with Native Americans. How over time they say if you have this much blood, you can classify as a Native American and you can get all these benefits. But over the years, they keep making the rules and the amount of blood lesser and lesser, so you can't classify for it. And most of us like probably do have Native American in our families, especially if we're from the South, just because it's natural.
Because we're on Indian territory.
Yeah, and because I can tell you, like in Mississippi, most Mississippi counties are named after Indian Native American
tribes.
Chickasaw. Oktibbeha County, where I went to school,
Here
Starkville.
too, Cherokee County.
Yeah, it's very it makes you realize like once again how much of a entity.
I found my great grandmother's in the census, and it says she was Choctaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they make it so hard to prove that.
I mean, I can't say that because I think it's just really us that don't take, because growing up, we always have family reunions. And we will always have family reunions in cities where my family is from. And I'm sure, I know for a fact, they used to give us the history of the whole family, but I probably wasn't paying attention. Yeah. So I think it comes down to accountability. Like, I think they do make it hard, but at the same time, like, I feel like we know what we up against. Even with the voting thing, like, you know what you up against. Like, just prepare for it.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Do you think that African Americans specifically deliberately ignore their history because it's painful?
It's trauma.
No, I don't.
I do.
I think it's more so we don't understand the importance of it. We don't understand, like, even with anything, like, you have to know the history to go forward. Mm-hmm. And I think people don't understand. They do, but they don't. Yeah. And I feel like us as black people, us as people in general, not just black people, we like to be spoon-fed. And if it's not spoon-fed to you, it's like, it's just like how you say, with men in sports. Like, we know all about sports, but we might not know as much about politics. Mm-hmm. And that's because it's not spoon-fed, it's not something that we're already interested in. I mean, I won't say not interested in, but we know it affects our lives, but again, we're not taking that extra step unless it's spoon-fed or unless it's something that we feel like, I guess, directly affecting us. And even though the history directly affects us, but, on a day-to-day basis, niggas done live 30 and 40 years without knowing their history, and they been cool, like they didn't got back. So I think I don't know. I think it's just more accountability.
But you think they are, Dom? You think they are ashamed?
Yeah. I think just in general, I think we're afraid of, just think about in general, it's certain stuff you probably can talk to your parents about. But it's probably certain stuff that y'all might tiptoe around and y'all might not necessarily dive into because it's either painful for them or it may be painful to you. And so I think unconsciously we're often afraid to look into our history from that dynamic. And I feel like that dynamic stops us from learning. Because even when I've looked into my family, like Jay Black said, it is frustrating because I can't just sit down and be like, okay, this generation leads me to this generation. I can in some ways, but it's been areas where I ran into a brick wall. Like, okay, dang, this child, my grandma raised this child, but they weren't really our blood family. Like, you start learning, like, some stuff you might not have known. It totally sends you in a whole nother direction as far as, okay, I have family over here, or I have family over here. And so it does get frustrating, and it does get, overwhelming sometimes, especially when you have to. I always tell people, especially black people, we have regular life issues that everybody else have, and then we have black issues. And I count stuff like that as black issues. When you're already living life, it's hard to make time to, and I say it's not going to be spoon-fed to you, so you do have to sit down sometimes and ask family members questions, or like go to, the library, or just like figure stuff out, and it can be overwhelming, man.
I mean, I can agree to the point. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I can agree that they don't want to deal with it. Because, like, when I watch certain movies, like when I watch Judas and the Black Messiah, like when I watch certain movies like that,
yeah,
like I be having a feeling towards white people.
Right.
Not necessarily, and it's just like, damn,
but
y'all
I think
really
that's
put us
why.
through that. Like,
that's why they, okay, that's why now you see a push for the history that's being taught to be taught in a different way because they don't want that. Because that is going to encourage people to change. That, whatever that is that you feel when you see movies like that, that is what pushes people. That's what makes people feel like
I need to do something about it.
I need to do something about it.
But that's what, like, it makes me so proud.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And this may sound like, I'm not trying to gas y'all up, but, like, even what y'all doing, like, that's why I tell you all the time, Jay Black, that's the power that you hold being a creator. Like, these stories that ain't nobody else told, you have the power to tell them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can. I ain't saying you gotta be, you know what I'm saying, Tyler Perry or Spike Lee, but like you literally have the ability, and you help us week to week bring news. You help us bring stories. You help us bring the stuff that people do need to hear. So like I always tell people, like, don't take that lightly, because like I always tell people, when you in moments and you doing stuff, it always seems smaller, but like you helping on a whole nother scale that like people don't necessarily even understand.
And you know what's crazy about all this? When we first started doing this show, I was telling him, like, the city where my family is from, like, we got to go out there one of these days and really do a story and, like, show people what's going on. That was it. That was, like, the basis of what this is. And from that, we were like, we need to just educate people, or not even really educate them, because who am I? But just have those conversations about the things that go on and try to, you know, talk them out and make people understand. When I saw sticking to what Jay Black said, I saw the other day the governor of another one of my favorites, haha, being sarcastic, the governor of Florida.
DeSantis, what's his name?
Yeah. He was saying the critical race theory will never be studied in the state of Florida. We're against it. They want to make that a part of the curriculum, and they don't want it. But the critical race theory is that there is a thing that called white supremacy, that laws are created on, and, you know, that there were a group of people that had a certain way of thinking, and that, you know, really what the truth is. But they don't want you to learn that way, because what they want is for the next generation to forget more of what happened, the next generation to forget even more of what happened, the next generation to forget even more of what happened.
That's so dangerous.
Until we get to the point where we have a generation of people that are so ignorant about their past that they are able to start it over again.
Yeah, they really just trying to get to the point to where they trying to make it seem like it just never happened.
Exactly.
They trying to get to we in that world right now where everybody, they want everything, everybody to be accepted, everybody to be, you know, I don't know, but I think they get to the point to where they just wanted to be like, oh, this didn't happen.
And that, to me, that's even fake. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's, to me, that's what gets me, is kind of like, if I know you don't like me, I can deal with that, you know what I'm saying? But don't fake it. Like, you know, and I feel like over time, it's called social conditioning, where they literally, you know, if you want to make a group forget something, or you want to, like, as I always say, Germany, like, you know what I'm saying, Nazis and, like, that whole history, like, they acknowledge that. Like, they teach it in school literally because they never want that to happen again. Like, they're not as shameful of it as you would think. They embrace it and put it in this place. But here in America, we want to, you know, sweep stuff under the rug. We want to let the water keep boiling until it boils over. And ideally, that's what's causing so many issues. I feel like if we could just be real, and that leads me to a question for y'all. Like, you know, I feel like each week, it's inevitable. We touch on white supremacy and the remnants, the ramifications of it each week. But realistically, how do you guys feel like we actually stop white supremacy? What could we logically do to make this better for us?
Yeah, we did talk about this once before, and remember, I forgot who was. We had a guest on the show that day, but it was a guest that we know. It was like one of our friends, and we literally sat here and were like, there is really no such thing as white supremacy if you think about it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's another theory, right? I mean, it's a theory though that so many people have gone to agree with and to, indoctrinate themselves with that it became a thing. But to combat that,
and that's why I tell
you have to believe in yourself.
You stop white supremacy.
And that's why I tell people, like,
Yeah,
I don't necessarily
period.
even call it
Period.
white supremacy. I call it white fragility, because that's what it is.
Because it's not real, so it comes across as there being a fragility, and there really isn't a fragility. There's just no real supremacy.
I feel like, to me, that's a misnomer, because systems are real. Like, black people here in the United States, we're trapped in a system, a vicious one. And so I feel like we have to acknowledge what's going on.
But that is something else. Like, they did that because they were able to push white supremacy for so long, it became a mind frame where they were able to go in and do this stuff. But that wasn't only for them, that was for us too. So you see the intimidation tactics, the statues, the just anything that's visual that's gonna make you buy into that. That's when it became a thing. I mean,
but that's what I'm saying.
People only do what you let them do. Like, we say that every day to each other, but we have to apply that to everything. Like, now we're becoming more empowered to do more as far as like voting, not holding people accountable.
And I feel like that's all cool and that's all utopian thought process. But the fact of the matter is, we just came out and voted in record numbers in Georgia. And now, what are they doing? They're suppressing votes.
But it goes back to what you said before. I don't know if you said it on air before the show, but we flipped it federally and not on the state level.